It's 5 o'clock, and we are recording, so welcome to the April 17th NURA Citizens Advisory Committee. Do we have a roll call, and are we on Zoom? Because
we are on Zoom.
Excellent.
I do not see any named people who are part of the committee that are on Zoom. I don't think there were any.
Matt Smith is going to be on Zoom, so.
There's one person on Zoom, but they don't have a.
Can you query him and see if that's Matt coming from a personal system? Because he will not be able to query us or raise his hand or anything, say anything.
He's the CPRD.
Ex officio.
Okay.
Yep. Awesome, thank you.
Molly Olson.
Here.
Jim Tull.
Here.
Philip Higgins.
Here.
Daniel Heister.
Here.
Dawn Paulson.
She is excused. Her son is in the robotics team championship.
Ah, yes. Jennifer Bean. Here. Bubba King.
Here.
Jillian Daly is absent, and Matt Smith appears to be absent.
I think we'll keep an eye on Zoom. That was his intention anyway. Okay, thank you all for being here. There are healthy snacks to keep blood sugar reasonably. There's hummus, string cheese, because it is dinner time for some folks, but we will go swiftly as we can. Before we hop into the agenda, I want to do a couple of announcements because otherwise we'll hit the end of the meeting and I will have forgotten. So first, welcome Bubba King, who is our replacement member for the person who left. Could you quickly go around and just say your name, and that way everybody, Bubba knows everybody already?
Well, we just did a roll call.
You're good? Okay.
I might. Yeah. Jen, Don?
Dan.
Okay. And
Cool.
Jen.
Got it.
Okay.
I'll ask one more time, sorry.
No, I think it's good. That was the point of
I'll
it.
probably ask one more time.
I probably wasn't going to ask
Jen, I'm giving you a name tag. That's it. Okay. You got an email that said the meeting is going to shift from Wednesdays to the last Thursday of the month. Did everyone get that email, and is it okay? No. Okay, so that was my concern. So look on your calendars. We had a problem getting staff to the meetings. We've got some very hectic times coming up with budget committee meetings, and Wednesdays turned out to be a bit of an issue, and then we had other issues, so they asked if we could please meet the last Thursday of each month.
And that started in June?
Actually, that will start in June, because in May, we're going to not have a meeting, we're gonna go on a tour. And we get to, that's my next question, is what day would be good for that? Because we can do that on a Wednesday. Is Thursday bad for you, Jen?
Yes, I don't get back to town until like 7 p.m.
Whoa.
Yeah, those are my long days at work.
Okay. So we have 2 months to figure this out, but that was the days they proposed, so Jen cannot make that. Is it? Can everyone else? No, that's okay. I saw the mail come out. This has changed. I thought, well, maybe we should talk about it and make sure everyone can come.
So for me, the last week of the month, most of my committees and boards are all the first part of the month.
Exactly.
So the last week
That's why
of
they
the
did
month,
it.
exactly. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Okay.
great. Friday, not so much.
So would Tuesday work? They by June, that might, I will inquire is whether Tuesday, Monday?
Last Tuesday or?
Yeah, last Tuesday of the month. All the committee meetings are usually the first and third or the second, right? So occasionally there's one that comes in, but often the last of the month is not, so. You're good?
Our next meeting is May.
So the May meeting was currently going to be the 15th. We're not going to actually meet. We're going to take a tour of the urban renewal area. So physically, we can establish that date. I wanted to come away with a list of dates that would work for you guys, and then Russ Thomas check his schedule. It'll take an hour. Basically, it's going to be driving around, getting into the mill site so that we can drive around in there and you can see it. And then the areas around it, he said it shouldn't take more than an hour, so.
No stretch limo?
No.
Wine country tours?
No.
No.
What a great idea, though. I think the tour would go better with a beverage, but no.
I'm not sure I can commit, but I've been there, so.
Yes, I figured Phil probably already knows
I
it, but
could
you're.
probably lead the tour.
Exactly. So given the limited car space, I would rather, if you don't need it, that you didn't come along, but, because I can drive and Russ can drive, and then it's going to be starting to look like a caravan. So, okay. So I will check last Tuesday, Monday of the month and see if we can move it from a Thursday because it doesn't work for Jen. And I will check with the guys who aren't here tonight, Dawn and
And I will say,
Jillian.
my major concern is timing of the day. This kind of time works fine for me.
5
I
o'clock.
do not like meetings at 7, 8, 9
No,
o'clock.
I hate them myself. So 5, this is the trade-off, right? It's like, okay, you're not here past like 6:30,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
But it is right at the end of your workday, which is not so great, which is why we have snacks. Okay.
This is why I'm retired.
I'm retired too, but I haven't noticed that it helps. Okay. I did too many years of night meetings. I do not like them either. Okay, on to the next one. I will check last Tuesday, Monday of the month and see how that works for folks, for the staff. Tour of the site. Would you look at your calendars and think you've already got Wednesday, May 15th at 5, because that's when we were going to meet? And I think it's, at this point, it's Daniel, Jen,
Me.
Bubba, if you can do it.
I'll meet over there and, I presume, the mill site is kind of, you
If
can
you
take a
don't-
quick tour and then we can like stop and get out of the car and like have a quick conversation about it. Is
Yeah.
that what you're thinking?
Yeah, he's just going to point things out. He's going to go and say, okay, this is where the boundary road is that's on your plan, this is that. So I'll assume you want to come. So we've got at least 2 carloads at this point, I think, that'll want to come. Jim?
I spoke in error. I am going to be in Hawaii on the 15th, so
There was someone else who had a problem with that Wednesday, which is,
it does, I know the mill site
Pretty
pretty
well.
well myself.
okay. Alternatively, the 13th, which is a Monday, would you be in Hawaii?
The 13th would work.
Okay, everybody check your calendar, because I will, and see, bad?
I just signed up for a ceramics class at the CCR,
When does it start?
May 6th, on Monday nights,
No, what time? On Monday?
6 p.m.
Perfect, we will be done. That is really good, because you will be in my car and we will be done. Yeah, okay. Not that I'm motivated. All right, I will try for the 13th, and if that doesn't work, I'll go for the 15th, and I will publish it back out. Okay, the third thing, I just wanted to let you know that the NURA budget meeting is May 6th. You do not have to come to this. I'm simply sharing information.
I do.
Me too.
You do not have to come to this unless you're on the budget committee. It's only a half an hour long, it's 5:30 to 6. There is not a lot to talk about in the budget meeting yet, and I will bring the results of it in here, but if anyone is interested, please feel free to, it will be at the Denise Bacon room. It's right before council.
I have Matt Smith in here, so I'm.
Yay, excellent. So that's just if you're interested, anything in NURA I'm going to let you know about, and then if you're interested, and please, this is your only commitment. Okay, and that was all of my homework. Is there anything that you need to get out before we go into the presentation?
So, Matt, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, whoa, yes.
Sorry, it logged me in, but it wouldn't let me chat or do anything. So,
Right, not until you get promoted. It's like you've had a promotion, Matt, congratulations.
oh wow, this is great. Do I get any money? Just kidding.
No, more work, but no more money, yeah.
No, what I was gonna say is my CPRD board meetings are the last Thursday.
Okay,
So,
super. You don't need to attend those, do you, Matt? I'll
yeah,
see.
they get really upset if I don't.
I understand. We'll see if we can get it moved to Monday or Tuesday of that week.
Okay.
and see what we can do. I'll get back to you on that. Okay.
No problem.
And with that, and Matt, do you need the tour of the
Yeah, I'll attend that, so long as I don't have another meeting.
conflict? Okay, we're gonna aim for Monday, May 13th, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
Okay.
To 5:55, and then drop you here. No, okay.
Right, that should
And
work.
with that, we have an approval of minutes. Did you all get the minutes? I know you didn't, Bubba. Yeah, I'm guessing not, because it took us a little while, so we're gonna skip this agenda item, and next meeting, if you would, you should get 2 sets of minutes from tonight and from the first meeting. And all we ask is that you read them, and then we will do an approval. If you have any issues with them, we can make changes. So we'll skip that for tonight, and make sure that they are out. Even if they're out, if you didn't read them, we can't ask you to approve them, so.
Yeah, I think actually I did get it.
You and I did get the list of changes from Will. I'm not sure that was the whole minutes.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind is every T was a question mark. Was that in yours as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a keyboard issue?
Mm.
I've seen that before, and
Mm.
I don't know where it came from, but
Probably a computer with a sense of curiosity,
Yeah.
is my guess. Okay, with that, and keeping all of our meetings prompt, we will ask Jeremiah to educate us on the existing plan.
Thanks, Counselor Olson. Emily, am I having you change the slides for me? Okay. Jeremiah Cromie, Associate Finance, has to make sure I'm not having a clicker or something tonight. So go ahead and go to the next slide. I'll give you a brief overview. I mean, not brief, but an overview of the urban renewal plan. I'm not going to get into super details tonight, but I'll kind of give you an overview. There is a report that accompanies the urban renewal plan, which I believe everybody has at this point, correct?
Yeah,
Someone's
and
got a
Matt,
copy
I
of-
have your copy.
Okay. Alright. Just so everybody's aware, there's a lot of cities in Oregon that use urban renewal, or the other thing you'll hear about is tax increment financing. It's the same thing. It's basically redirecting revenue that would otherwise go to taxing districts that is above what's called a frozen base from last time. If you guys remember, that set when the urban renewal district was established, the additional revenue from the assessed value that would normally go to taxing districts goes to the certain area to help redevelop it. In Newberg, the process for the urban renewal kind of started back in 2016 with our downtown improvement plan and updating our transportation system plan. And as the years have gone along, we've added different plans that have been updated as part of that. The urban renewal plan has been evaluated against all these other plans. So we have our wastewater, we have our water, we have our transportation, our economic needs, and there's a few others in there as well. So you can see housing, on the right slide from the original when they did the urban renewal. So there's a lot of plans that are incorporated, or not going to say incorporated, but were looked at as part of the urban renewal plan going forward. So next slide. So urban renewal district, it's 540 acres. The maximum indebtedness that you can go is $125,800,000 over 30 years. A general location is downtown, here in the downtown core, and then along River Street and Blaine Street, and then mostly down in the riverfront area. And just a reminder that urban renewal doesn't increase property taxes, so just keep that in mind. I know that's something that everybody will ask about. Hopefully it's not too bad anymore, but we'll see. Next slide, please.
It's actually really hard to run it and run this and do everything at the same time.
So the urban renewal has 5 goals to it. The first being economic development. Second being livability and development. The C would be the riverfront area, the downtown area. Then the goal of the administration is just the administration of the plan. So that's finance, that's the projects going into it. Next slide, we'll go through the different goals. So the first goal, economic development. The main point of that is to enhance industrial development capabilities, and that's retention and expansion of existing industrial businesses, recruitment of traded sector companies, and making sure adequate utilities, your water, your sewer, your storm, electric, is in place to support that industrial growth, and then obviously improving the transportation access for that industrial land. And then the second would be our commercial development, and that's redevelopment of vacant and underutilized commercial properties, and also creating support for creation of new businesses. Next slide. Our second goal being livability and development. So we want to blend the current built environment, what's already existing, with the surrounding natural landscape as much as possible. Try and make it look nice. And then we want to improve multimodal transportation. Some of the goals included in that include ADA spot improvement projects for critical routes to improve walkability and coordination with those transportation plans. Like I mentioned, we have those different plans, and I'll get into the projects a little bit later. And then also complete bicycle lanes on the plans established by the transportation plan. The third one being the downtown improvement plan, which was done in 2016, so it's been a little bit, but basically implementing the projects within that plan, including First Street improvement projects, which currently include the road diet on First Street, the West End Mill District project, which council got an update on Monday night. That project is progressing. Not really a whole lot of urban renewal involved with that, but it's in the plan. Second Street mixed use, some of this has already been done through previous zoning changes, and then there's catalyst development projects. And then infrastructure on the other goal for development, obviously increase the supply of industrial and commercial retail land. A lot of the urban renewal focus is on, we were talking about the mill site earlier, is down on the riverfront area and trying to encourage development down that area so we can get more tax revenue from that. And then obviously improving utilities in that area. Next slide, please. So I was talking about the riverfront area a minute ago. So we want to provide a mix of land uses, public, residential, commercial, mixed. A lot of this was part of the riverfront master plan that was done, I believe it was 2019, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that sounds right.
19, plan for that multimodal transportation, especially to connect the downtown area to the riverfront area, to have that connection so you can feel like you're going to one area and the other, but we have that connection in between. And then we want to preserve open space and natural features part of that, and that includes down where the old landfill was, down by Rogers Landing, that area, to try and keep that natural features in place along the riverfront.
Although, just a quick note, those two areas were removed from the plan because the county did not wish to participate. So we can't spend urban renewal dollars on like putting a park in or fixing that Rogers Landing. They can, CPRD can, county can, but it's outside the bounds of this. But since it exists,
and there's
we want to-
some city land mixed in down there that was recreation.
And some privately owned land too.
Yes, there's that too.
That would make a lovely park.
Go ahead, next slide, please. There's a lot of downtown goals in here. It's just increasing the vibrant feeling of downtown, pedestrian, place where people want to go, have a place to shop, work, visit, potentially even live as part of like a mixed-use project.
parking.
Have the easy parking. So part of the urban renewal goals, and I'll mention it in one of the other slides coming up, was in the downtown district. It does include adding two surface parking lots. Yep. And so we're mixing the uses there. Go ahead, next slide. There's one.
Quick question on the downtown, because I haven't seen the downtown plan. Just, do you recall off the top of your head, is there urban renewal money available to help underground utilities
That's
to put all the overhead stuff underground. That's part of it.
on Second Street.
Yeah, I
First
believe
Street?
on, I'll double check when we get to the
Okay.
downtown, but I believe that might be.
There's challenges on First Street because of ODOT. But on Second Street, I know that that was discussed. I believe it made it into the end of the plan. Most of the infrastructure downtown is kind of, can we underground the power lines and can we fix the old water pipes, which are too small to allow development in some areas?
And some of that's already going on with the House Bill 2001, with the middle housing and the requirements for infrastructure. Our engineering team's working on that. I believe there's one on, is it Blaine already?
Could be.
That's drinking water and sewer, or just drinking water?
I was familiar with,
Well, it's water, from
Water.
what I recall.
Just
water.
we already have stormwater in our basements, so that's not a problem. No.
Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So there's the 5 goals I mentioned, and there's different categories for these projects within the urban renewal plan. And so the ones we have are public transportation, infrastructure, the riverfront trails, undergrounding utilities, as we were just discussing, acquisition and disposition of land or easements or other things needed to make the plan work, and there's administration of the plan with the 5 goals on the bottom there, just for a recap. And then I'm going to get into the separate sub areas in the project. So as part of the urban renewal plan, when they adopted it, when they reviewed all of the other infrastructure plans, transportation plans, they had a whole list that got narrowed down to basically make sure it fit with the existing plans in place that were there. Not saying that they couldn't have a project added to that, but it was narrowed down already to certain projects that they believe provided the most value based on the existing plans. So go ahead and go to the next slide.
And just a quick note, Matt said that he's gonna have to leave at 5:45 because
Yep.
he was double booked on meetings.
So there's, I believe, 6 sub areas. So sub area A is down along the riverfront. This includes the mill site on your right, down center on the map there, or it says riverfront sub area A on this map. The projects included in that include the East 14th Street extension, so that's the one. I don't know, can you guys see this very well? I don't know. Let's see. 14th Street is here. This is River Street here. You have Winooski here. And, yeah, so eventually this will be developed, hopefully. And so part of that, and the extensions includes curb, sidewalk, stormwater. They all the projects that include road infrastructure include the curb, sidewalk, stormwater, sewer, water. So when you see these extensions of the roads or other road projects, it includes all of those. And we just bring it up to current city standards. So the other one would be Winooski Street from the bypass to Dogridge. So currently there's no sidewalk there if you come out the wastewater treatment plant. Once you get past the bypass overpass there. Dogridge Road currently only exists as a dead-end road. It would actually extend into it dead ends basically our water treatment plant there. It's on the, not included in the area. It was recently tried to put into the area. Council denied that, or the Urban Renewal Agency. So this was the water plant here. So this would essentially connect up 14th Street and Dogridge to get another connection into the Riverfront District and downtown.
Now, that's the treatment plant for the facility or treatment plant for the
That's for the city water.
City
so
water
treatment plant.
I think as we go on, I don't know if this is the right time to do this or not, but there is an ability to add land in or to subland out, but it's fairly limited ability.
Yeah, I do have a slide a little bit
Okay,
later
good,
on
good.
about that.
So if we come up and say, we have to go back and revisit that because of X, Y, and Z who want to move in, that is a recommendation we can make. It's, I think it came cold at the Newberg Commission.
Right. The other project in here, it's kind of the more, I guess, fun project you could say, is the Esplanade along 14th Street. So it would be a walking path with, and it would continue on the other side too, on the other sub areas for redevelopment and having some lookouts to the Willamette River as part of that. So next slide. So the green there is that continued Esplanade, and then connecting with the multi-use trail that currently exists. There is a rail crossing improvement. If you've ever driven down River or College Street, you know there's a stop sign just there. The railroad is still active. It could be used for a future developer on the mill site. So it is, even though it looks like it's dead right now, it still is technically active. ODOT will tell you that. And then we have just more extensions of 14th Street, which is already, well, there's not extension on this side, sorry. It's actually existing, it'll just be improving to existing standards. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This one, the main, on the main area, sub area C, you have College Street running down kind of the middle of that map there. It'd be basically a wastewater lift station down on the left-hand side there, as this area has lack of wastewater infrastructure to handle wastewater in the area. I'm not sure on Weatherly, I can't remember which one they tapped into, but I think also would be improved from that. So that area could get redeveloped as that wastewater infrastructure gets put in. Next slide. So this one, kind of the same area where that wastewater was on the left-hand side, but it would include a Blaine Street extension to College Street. So currently there's no street there. So this would require some sort of easement or acquisition. The other railroad crossing street on College is another project inside of that area. East 9th Street would be improved with sidewalk and ADA ramps. And then you'll see Rennie Field to the north. And there's next on the next, no, not next slide, sorry. It's not on that one. I lied. Go ahead, yeah, you can go to the next one. So the thing you'll see too on a bunch of these sub areas is River Street improvements. It's basically River Street from Rogers Landing all the way up to First Street, so 99, which would improve the area to current standards. To put in improvements, so this one is just the riverfront, it's just River Street improvements. And go next slide, you'll see the theme here, River Street going all the way up. So there's 3 different sections. There's 3rd to 9th, 9th to essentially would be 14th, and then 1st to 3rd, which should be, nope, it's not the next slide. But go ahead to the next one. The other one that is Blaine Street would be updated to current standards, the ADA ramps. There is some talk with the school district and ZPRD when they have a proposal, I think, with the public for Rennie Field here coming up tomorrow. I think they have a public meeting. Matt can correct me if I'm wrong about that, and we're working with them as part of that too. So that would be Blaine Street improvements, and that's just the street. There's no other things in that section. And then the next slide is your downtown, which is a lot.
So there's the 2nd Street.
Yeah, so the 2nd Street utility would be undergrounded, so that's not on 99 here. That's the street just south of First, so you're behind City Hall, that street behind City Hall there. ADA ramps throughout. ODOT's working on that as well right now. And then anybody's participated in the urban design verification project. I don't know what's going to come out of that exactly, but part of that was ADA ramp requirements in downtown. Water line replacements on Sheridan. The road data I mentioned on First and Hancock, so it would essentially take it down to 2 lanes. And talking to ODOT, they would still have some pocket turn for 3rd lane at College and Main. I don't know, that's in coordination with ODOT though, so it's not just a city thing. Water line replacements on Meridian. And then there was one other thing I was going to mention here. Some other water line replacements which are already going on. And then if you notice, they have the boundary area for 2 public parking lots. So basically anywhere in the downtown core could be used for that in this area for the most part. Go ahead, next slide. It's just a list of those projects. I think there's anything other than water lines and street improvements other than the parking. So go ahead and continue. Like I mentioned, it would include sidewalk, all that, wastewater. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So financing mechanisms for urban renewal projects, the most and one you want to use as much as possible is tax increment revenues, which is that additional revenue from the taxing districts that would normally go to them from the increased assessed value would go to these projects. Otherwise, you're using a system of advances, loans, grants, other forms of financial assistance from federal, state, other government entities. You can also get some things from private developers, property owners, just other contributions from public or private sources. The city is required, well, I should say their agency is required to do a financial analysis of the entire plan every 5 years. And then we are required to, ORS 457, 120, maybe you're quoting that wrong. We are required to do an annual report to the state. There's actually 4 types of amendments you can make to the urban renewal plan. So there's what's called substantial amendments, which are pretty big, and that's adding land to the urban renewal area, except for that land not more than a cube of 1% of the existing area. So our current plan is 450 acres. So as mentioned before, the water treatment plant was tried to done under the, not under substantial, but a different process we'll talk about in a minute. That didn't happen. You also could increase the amount of indebtedness that can be issued or incurred under the plan. Most jurisdictions don't do that unless there's some project that just needs to be done, and it's not favorably looked upon by the state. You could increase the duration of time to retire the planned debt, unless it's necessary to avoid default, and I hope we never go into that situation. And then substantial amendments require the same noticing, hearing, and approval procedure of the original plan, which includes public involvement, consultation with the taxing districts, the planning commission, and adoption by city council. So it's a full, you're basically almost, I won't say restarting the project, but essentially you're restarting the whole system project again. Go ahead to the next one. So there's 3 other amendments to the urban renewal plan that can be done, which is council approved amendments, or the tax increment revenue would not exceed $500,000, and that does adjust for inflation based on the Seattle engineering record. And then minor amendments are not substantial amendments or council improvements, but they have to be approved by the agency. So that's what happened to the water treatment plant. It was considered a minor amendment that would have had to be approved by the urban renewal agency, which did not pass. And then the other amendments, as the city and the city makes decisions to amend the comprehensive plan and municipal code, it's automatically incorporated into the plan. So there's not a whole bunch of work and having to do a bunch of amendments as the city makes amendments to its comprehensive plan and municipal code. And then next slide. So property acquisition disposition. So you can, as part of the urban renewal plan, acquire property via simple easements, license, other rights. It has to be identified through a minor amendment. It can be done through eminent domain, but it's usually last option. Obviously, willing sellers being first. And so even an easement, my reading of it is that it does require amendment to the plan if it's just even an easement for a road or utility line. You have to amend the plan if it's not already an existing city right of way. And then you have to have a plan for any disposition and timeline for when these things are to occur and the projects within them. And then if you are acquiring property with residential or commercial occupants, you do have to offer relocation assistance compliant with state law. So I think that's all I have on the overview. If anybody has questions, happy to try and answer them for you.
It's a lot to digest, which is why you have a printed copy and a tour. And we don't eat the elephant all at once. It comes to us in nibbles. So the reason I wanted to start, Nora doesn't have a lot to work on yet because we're just getting started. But coming to grips with the plan and understanding kind of what's going on in that area, when we have conversations about should we do this or this and why, which is our June meeting, understanding the goals that we have and the types of decisions that you'll be making, trade-offs, should we spend urban renewal money on this project or that? How does it align? If you have a beginning idea of what the plan is, that will help that discussion. So there will not be a quiz, but yeah.
Molly, do you mind if I add something?
Please.
So as you kind of consider what documents are here, one of the reasons that Jeremiah was asked to do this presentation was just to help you all kind of get started on a general familiarization of what is the plan, what's in it, what is it supposed to do, it needed to be changed, how would we do that, those sorts of things. Some of the basic big pieces from that would be the maximum indebtedness figures, that there's a big list of projects, and that there are procedures that if you wanted to change something about those, whether that's a project, whether that's maximum indebtedness, whether that's something else, that those are in there. And so that's kind of the major pieces. One of the things, particularly if you look at the rather massive 500-page or so document that is the ordinance that was adopted, which the plan is really only about 55 pages of that or something like that. So the plan itself is not gigantic. It's mostly that list of projects in the different areas that are in some maps. But there is also, which will probably be of interest to folks, a report that accompanied it that talks about a number of things that are details that this group hasn't gone into yet. I myself am not that familiar with. People who previously served on advisory committees or participated in the process are probably familiar with. But even if you just went into that accompanying report and looked through the table of contents, it talks about projects in the area and their relationship between urban renewal projects and existing conditions. It talks about estimated total cost of each project, sources of money. It talks about financial analysis of the plan. It talks about estimated time of tax increment revenues required and anticipated year in which indebtedness could be retired. So some of those things, as you say, well, what about this? What about that? Some of that will be in that accompanying document. And keep in mind, each of these are a snapshot of when we were going up towards adoption. So if something in the assumptions seems dated, it could be.
Yeah,
That's the best we have available.
Right, I was gonna say that, the most of this work that was done on this was done, in the run up through the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And so material costs post-pandemic have massively increased. So, a lot of these numbers are probably 30% lower than.
They're based on 2020 dollars.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
they're 30% lower than 2024 dollars.
Yeah, so if you guys want to do back of the napkin and say, this was then, this is now,
Yeah,
those are fair sorts of assumptions to
yeah,
make.
so that's just something to kind of be cognizant of.
Yeah. One of the other big takeaways, if people ask you, because you're on the Citizen Advisory Committee and you're asked, I don't get it, what's it for? The whole point of urban renewal is that you have a blighted area that needs extra attention. And so you give it extra attention through this financing mechanism. You're trying to unblight an area. That's the point of the projects. That's the point of the financing mechanism. So if you do get those questions, or someone's kind of like, you spend time doing this, what does that mean? That's the idea, is you're trying to unblade something, you're trying to make it nice. And it just needs extra resources to make it happen.
One of the sort of soapboxes that I'll get on, and it kind of gets
Oh, no.
a little
No.
wonky. So,
Sorry, meeting adjourned.
yeah, so our economic opportunity analysis report that was part of all of this identified that Newberg itself has a 156 acre deficit of industrial lands for our 20-year land supply. So the mill property, which we are looking at as sort of a,
That's even with the mill property.
I was
in
gonna
it.
say, the mill property represents probably about 70 net developable acres before you lose stuff to roads and infrastructure and circulation and things like that. So, taking away 20% of that is whatever that number is. So, we're still 100 acres deficit for our, 20-year land supply. That is, for industrial lands, that is so incredibly significant, and significant in a really, really bad way.
But for this group,
Yeah.
because that's a whole urban growth boundary expansion.
Right.
And the city is working on that. That is a multi-year project. Our goal here is to make the best use of what we do have and to understand the priorities. So our next meeting is going to be tour, so you can see things. The meeting after that, I kind of want you thinking about it. It's like, how do I make a decision as to which project comes first when I have competing projects? And even if I don't have competing projects, if I know that there's a really big infrastructure project, do I do other little ones first or not? Because that was a hot button of discussion in the NURA meeting, is some of these things you have to do. You have to improve Blaine and River, because they are the egress in and out of that industrial area. So there is a tremendous lift to get that industrial area turned on today. It's funny because there was a mill there before, right? So it should be easy, but the whole city has grown up and the land use laws have changed. And so there's work to be done. So as we go through this, you'll be making trade-offs, and we need to think about what are those trade-offs? And then we recommend that criteria to the NURA agency. And they come back and say, nah, we want this or this or this or this, or yes, we like that. And then together we come to how we make decisions as projects come in. And that's the work I wanted to get done before somebody came in, slammed his fist and said, I want to move in. Because then we will be in crisis mode trying to make a decision. So learn this as best you can as far as the tour and stuff, and then we'll dive in. You'll get very familiar with it. More questions for Jeremiah or Clay?
Is there some, when I worked or was loaned to the city of Portland to work in brownfields, there was a connection to HUD. Is there any federal agency?
For brownfields or
For brownfields.
For HUD, not so much. There was an evaluation of the mill site by EPA, which they are in the process of stepping away from. They've said they didn't find anything that hit any thresholds, but not HUD, so I don't know what the nexus there is. But for EPA and cleanup activities associated with that kind of breakdown, disassembling, demolition, so EPA has indicated, this was reported recently to the city council, that nothing was triggered, nothing was identified, which was a little surprising to them. Because one, there wasn't much documentation. Two, there were some pretty intensive activities on the site.
Yeah. There was a pulp mill.
Right.
It has
So,
real powerful bases
right.
on it.
So it doesn't mean something couldn't be uncovered in the future, but they didn't find anything when they did their preliminary sampling.
I
And so,
know Richard, so yeah, I talked with him about it.
and the mill owner has gone into voluntary cleanup with DEQ. So they're doing the things that they need to do, and the conversation with EPA representatiades and DEQ representatives most recently, they said they were being cooperative. They didn't want to do more than they had to, which is probably not a surprising response, but because they already felt like we're investing money in doing this stuff. We don't want to invest more than we have to, but we're happy to do the stuff we need to.
Well, the good news about that is that the property, it may constitute a brownfield, but it is clearly, they did a thorough enough investigation of it I'm frankly surprised it's as clean as it is.
One of my, and this is completely anecdotal, but one of my understandings is that because that was a newsprint pulp mill, and not like a white paper pulp mill, a lot of the chemicals that one uses to get paper white were not in play. And so there was, it was sort of less chemically intensive.
I worked on a mill site down in Samoa, which is Eureka, California. It was a huge mill, and they were just making toilet paper and lots of toilet paper out of redwoods. But they had a groundwater
It does not
contamination
sound
problem. You wouldn't
comfortable.
believe it, with the bases that they used for that.
We're down by the river, it just washes all like it's self-cleaning down there.
There's a lot of truth to that.
No, there is a lot of truth to that.
Okay, but back to
Solution
this.
solution.
Back to this. Any other questions? Because I am mindful that Matt has to leave. And I really do, my commitment to you is this meeting will not go a minute longer than it needs to, and then you can chat as much as you want, but people who need to go.
I have a
Jim?
question for both. You guys make great. Maybe it's stick and cheese too.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
And one thing you probably want to think about as we go towards that June meeting is like we'll work, staff will work with you as creating a scoring rubric criteria for how to score the projects. So that way it's based on, hey, there's criteria we're looking at. It's not just, hey, this is my personal feeling,
Bingo. Yeah.
that we can look at.
And to add to that, we will work on that, but some of that needs to come on what are you asking for and to get a clear ask. Sometimes we may also say, we will do this. Here's some homework for you all as a citizen advisory committee on some of those requests. And keeping in mind that if the requests come from this committee to do work, we are happy to do that. But if we start running out of staff resources, i.e. hours and hours available, then we may have to have discussions, probably with Will as the main administrator for this body, about where's the best use of our staff time. And if that's here with urban renewal stuff, we're happy to do that because we know it's a big deal. But we just have to be clear about what our commitments are in our department.
Yeah, I think Will is very interested in himself putting man hours in on the rubric. So I think we will come up with some reasonable stuff. And then when we go to use it, we'll figure out what we didn't do right and it'll be all right.
What is your allotted hours now?
Oh, I can work as many hours as I want to. But I would say too that one of the nice things about this is the public sector is willing to let you steal all their good ideas. So if you feel like you've heard about a town that was successful doing urban renewal, particularly in Oregon, call them, ask to speak with either an economic development person or a planning department. And it's okay to use their staff's time as much as you want. But they are often willing to share those. And so that's one of the first preliminary things that Jeremiah and I started looking at is looking at who's got a program that, how do they, who are we going to look at to see how they administer their grant programs and what those are shaped like? Or do they do revolving loan funds? Or do they do development agreements? Or what do they do to give the money away?
Do you have examples of cities that you paid attention to so
Yeah,
far?
actually,
So
Will
I
asked me
started-
to call Salem and I forgot.
Started looking at Salem. We had a staff member talk with us initially about how do we get this ball rolling.
Part of Salem.
City of Salem, they have 5 urban rural districts going.
Only
And
right
so they're
across
economic.
from City Hall where they tore down the Boise Cascade pulp and paper mill.
So they've got 5, they do different things. I know one's industrial designated, a couple are more downtown oriented. So they're probably shaped a little bit differently depending on what their objectives are. But those are all ones to look at. That's just in a single city. They have different urban rural districts, so
I've
that's.
been surprised when I looked at that, how many cities have urban renewal districts.
I know.
mean, they're all over the place. Everybody, up in the gorge, down in Eugene, everywhere.
And there is, if people want homework right now, we can send it. I don't know if it's the best one, but it's best practices for tax increment financing agencies in Oregon. And so it's from the Oregon Economic Development Association.
Cool, yeah,
Okay.
can you
We
circulate
can send that
that?
around.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the best practices document is set up on establishing an urban rural district. So we've already done that. So you don't have to skip that necessarily, but you don't have to spend much time on it either. So maybe go to the implementation stuff.
Yeah.
If you're kind of thinking about where to spend time. But that's a resource. If you find other good resources, send it to staff. Staff can ping it out to the group or make sure that it ends up on the agenda as kind of like a correspondence or announcement or something.
Something to look at. Yep. Okay. Anyone want carrots or hummus?
That's the sweet stuff.
Next time I'll bring sweet stuff too, but I got a keep cookies away from me message from several people, so I didn't bring them
Really?
this time. All right, with that, do we have anything else on the agenda that I forgot? Public comment, do we have any public comment?
We did not have anyone sign up.
All right, perfect. There is no new business, no agency business. I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.